Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. And today is the last day of the month of October, the 31st of October 2022. We have an important issue to discuss with you, and let's go towards that without further ado. Our first segment today concerns Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef's visit to China on the invitation of Premier Li Keqiang. The Premier is going to go on a two-day official visit starting from tomorrow. He's going to meet with important leaders, including his counterpart Li Keqiang, Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, as well as Li Shanzhu, who's chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress. Important discussions are expected to be made during the course of this two-day important visit. Also, maybe important decisions regarding the future of this gamut of relationship between the Islamic Republic of Pakistan and the People's Republic of China might also be witnessed during the course of these 48 hours of our Premier's visit to China. This is going to be our first segment, the time-tested relationship between the two brotherly and iron fist countries of Pakistan and China, and how important is all of this in the context of the visit of our Premier Shahbaz Shareef Saab to the brotherly neighborhood country. Then our second segment concerns the latest as far as the floods are concerned in Pakistan. Winter is upon us, and of course there are important issues that need to be catered to as far as all the children, the women, the men who've been affected by these floods is concerned. 33 million plus people have been affected by this. What needs to be done by the world community? What needs to be done by the United Nations, by organizations such as UNICEF, or also by other world countries in the West that are responsible for the carbon emission due to which Pakistan has been a victim of these floods? This is going to be our second segment. Let's begin with our first story, and that concerns the visit of our Premier Shahbaz Shareef Saab to the People's Republic of China on the official invitation of Mr. Li Keqiang, the Chinese Premier, starting from tomorrow. More in the following report.
Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef will embark on maiden official two-day visit to China at the invitation of Chinese Premier Li Keqiang. The visit, Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef's first to China since taking office in April, is a continuation of the sound momentum of close high-level exchanges between the two countries. Premier Shahbaz will be among the first foreign leaders to visit China since the 20th National Congress of Communist Party of China successfully concluded, exhibiting the special friendship and strategic mutual trust between two countries. Pakistani and Chinese leadership will have in-depth exchanges of views on bilateral relations as well as international and regional issues of common concern to jointly chart a course and steer the growth of China-Pakistan relationship. In an op-ed published in the Chinese newspaper Global Times, Prime Minister Shahbaz described the ties between the two countries using the words longevity, love and trust. Amid profound changes in the world, China and Pakistan have jointly dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic and major natural disasters, built the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, deepened exchanges and cooperation across the board, and also closely coordinated in global and regional affairs. Pakistan looks forward to working with China to take the visit as an opportunity to further advance ties, to build an even closer community with a shared future, and to make a greater contribution to safeguarding regional peace and stability.
Now, to discuss more on the visit of Pakistan's Premier to China, we've been joined by Mustafa Hyder Sayyed. He's the Executive Director of the Pakistan-China Institute. Thank you very much, Mr. Sayyed, to have joined us. We understand the importance of the relationship between the two brotherly countries. We also understand how China has been backing Pakistan on all fronts. Of the late, what happened at the FATF, also how China stood by Pakistan, and now Pakistan is out of this grey list. Then at so many more issues where China has supported Pakistan's stance. How important do you feel under the current geostrategic scenario is the visit of our Premier starting from tomorrow?
Thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum all your viewers. I think this is a critical visit, both for our internal challenges of economy and economic growth and export-led growth, which the government has initiated, as well as our external challenges. As we see, we are at an important inflection point when it comes to the big power competition, geopolitical changes which are happening in the region, new deal with the United States as we speak, and as we know, Iran has a $25 billion, not 25, $65 billion plus agreement with China on the Initiative, and also the latest climate change disaster that our region, particularly Pakistan, has faced, and we are looking for climate justice. So I think in light of this most important visit that the government of Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef has embarked on, and particularly within this visit, I think there are two key initiatives which we should pay high attention to. One is the single largest CPEC project to date is supposed to be signed during the visit of the Prime Minister and in meeting with President Xi, which is a $9 billion mainline one project of railway, which will connect Xinjiang, which is the southwestern province, as you know, of China, to the port. And this is the big CPEC to date since the onset of CPEC in 2014. And the second, I think, very important initiative is, which will transform our port city of Karachi, is the Karachi Circular Railway Project, which will give the citizens of our biggest city, which is almost 30 million inhabitants, ability, the common middle class and the people of low subsidied, affordable mobility from one end to the other in the form of the Karachi Circular Railway, which is also supposed to be signed. So I think when we look at ray of hope for our economy, the biggest BI for Pakistan is yet to come, and I think there's a lot of expectation. And also 1 billion RMB, Chinese currency, 1 billion RMB is going to be given for the climate disaster that we have just witnessed. So I think this has a lot of expectations, and looking towards boost and impetus that Pakistan is desperate for at this point in time.
Mustafa, there's an issue. There's a lot of interruption as far as your side of the communication is concerned. If you could just change a little bit of where you're sitting or standing, so that maybe the communication could be a little bit better. Yes, it's much better.
Okay, yeah. I was saying that the biggest project of CPEC, ML1, is going to end in this visit, which is a $9 billion railway project which will connect the southwestern province of Xinjiang to Gwadar port. And that will be a game changer for the commerce that is to happen in CPEC, from the landlocked region of Xinjiang to Gwadar. So that is one, and that will give access to southwestern China to the warm waters at Gwadar. And the second I said was that the Karachi Circular Railway is a project for Karachi, which will give affordable mobility to citizens of Karachi, which is about 30 million informally, which have not been accounted for in the census. So these are two huge projects which are going to, I think, transform our infrastructure growth. And I was also saying that in terms of the climate justice that we are looking for after the recent floods, 1 billion RMB is being given by the People's Republic of China for rehabilitation of the people who have been affected. And that will go directly for the climate disaster that we've just witnessed. And I also had mentioned that big power competition and the changing regional geopolitical challenges that particularly in the light of the Iran-US negotiation deal, which Obama had started and it was ended by the Trump administration. That will also give us more connectivity if Iran sanctions are lifted, because Iran, as we know, has also signed a huge agreement under the Belt and Road Initiative with China. And we see that Kazakhstan is also a key member of the BRI. So we see this new connectivity and economic growth. So I think that this is really the most important visit of Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef after he's taken out as the Prime Minister of Pakistan.
All right. Mustafa, Hyder, Sayed, kindly stay online with us. We've also been joined by Dr. Salman Bhittani, who's a foreign affairs expert. Salman, pleasure to have you here after quite some time. Hope everything is all right at your end. The Premier is coming to China starting from tomorrow. We all understand the time-tested friendship, coordination, collaboration, and cooperation between the two countries since decades. We also understand how the geostrategic and geopolitical scenario of the region is changing very rapidly since the last few years, with the blocks being made and it is very apparent that there's going to be a multipolarity in the years to come. Where do you see China and where do you see its relationship with Pakistan standing in the months, in the years to come?
Thank you very much, Khalid Saab. It's good to join PT World after a long break. The question is very pertinent since it is in the backdrop of Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef visit. Uh, the importance and the significance can be measured in a way that Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef would be the first premier from any country who is visiting China after the grand meeting, and it's on the invitation of Premier Lee, and he will be meeting President Xi Jinping, and he'll be also meeting Li Zhang. So this shows that how much importance China gives to Pakistan, and how important Pakistan also also considers China as a strategic ally, as a strategic friend. And this significant timing which has been chosen, it is also reflective of the fact that both the countries are keen to carry forward this strategic relationship to a next level. As my friend was also referring to CPAC, we know that it has entered into a second phase. So there were some doubts created by people who are not quite favorable towards this cooperation, towards Belt and Road Initiative, and particularly CPAC. But this particular visit and the entrance into second phase also testifies the fact that this relationship is going into a direction which is long lasting. Talking
Or
from yeah.
Yes, I was just wanted to add something. You were talking about those elements that are not wanting this Pakistan-China friendship to strengthen in the long term, or even currently with the CPEC being one of the hallmarks. Now, we have seen certain regional actors attempting to harm the economic partnership between Pakistan and China by attacking Chinese workers in Pakistan. Do you feel that the measures taken by Pakistan in this context for the safety of Chinese workers are enough? And which elements do you feel, apart from the very evident ones, are behind such attacks on Pakistan's and Chinese interests?
Khalid Saab, when I came to China after the this long break in pandemic, and I rejoined my studies here, I had a feeling, I had a fear that there might be some negativity here. But I was surprised to know that in the academic elites, in the intelligentsia, the media, the Pakistan-China friendship vibe is so positive that even those attempts that were being made, and those powers, particularly India, which tries to sabotage this relationship or tries to sabotage this cooperation, it had no influence. As far as security of Chinese national is concerned, yes, the circles around here are really very much concerned about the fact that Chinese nationals have been vulnerable. But the mature circles are also satisfied with the arrangements made by Pakistani state, Pakistani security forces to improve and enhance the security measures. And when they know that there has been a development of a specific division for the security of CPAC projects and Chinese nationals and special police forces. While there also have been instances where Pakistani security forces have thwarted the evil plans of enemies of Pakistan-China friendship. beforehand, and the perpetrators were captured before they would commit a heinous crime. So and I think this would also be an agenda item in this visit. But overall, the situation is that it would not affect, or it is not affecting the broader relationship between the two strategic allies.
All right, all right. Mustafa, coming back to you, we all know the tensions that exist between the United States of America and the People's Republic of China, and how it is affecting the global geostrategic environment. Do you feel that this US-Chinese rivalry and, of course, the trade war that began even before this rivalry came to a height could have implications on the relationship between Pakistan and China?
Fantastic question. I just wanted to underscore a very important thing, that the Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef is one of three main important leaders from different parts of the world that is going to be welcomed by President Xi Jinping after he has recently, just 3 days ago, been re-elected for another term of 10 years
After the
as
20th CPC.
Secretary of the Communist Party of China and as the President of China. And the other leaders are from Vietnam and Tanzania, from Africa, from Southeast Asia, and from South Asia, Pakistan. So there are only three leaders being welcomed at this stage, which shows the importance of this visit. Secondly, when we talk about the rivalry, Pakistan has made a strategic decision. It's a choice that our strategic alignment, our all-weather bilateral partnership is with China. Just like the United States has made a choice, its strategic partnership is with India. And this does not mean that Pakistan cannot have full, constructive, mutually beneficial relationships with other countries like the United States, but we made a decision. And that's very clear, and we are unapologetic about that, and the countries have also exercised right and taken that decision. As far as the rivalry is concerned, it's very clear. If you look at the latest national security strategy of the White House, which was unveiled about a week ago, and I was going through things in it. One is innovation in infrastructure within America. Second is increasing America's economic competitiveness internationally. And third is China. So China is very much seen as a strategic threat by all elements of national power in the United States, and it so happens that China is Iran's strategic partner, who we call actually Iron Brother. And in the national security strategy, India has been named the net security provider in Asia by the United States, net security provider, which is, of course, a very special status partner stated in the national security strategy. However, that Pakistan knows that when it comes to our economic development or when it comes to our political support of the United Nations, the consistency that China has been unmatched by any other. So we have, I think, at different points in time, even told other countries who have expressed reservations on our friendship with China that you are also welcome to do the same. No one is stopping you to invest in Pakistan. No one is stopping you to make projects or other activity projects in Pakistan or even support Pakistan politically or strategically. China has done that. So I think we are very clear about that. And at the same time, I think we should also be clear that our relationship with China is not at the cost of our relationship with anyone else. As a principal country with interests, wide-ranging interests, we want to have good relations with everyone. However, yes, our relations with the People's Republic of China are unique. They are special. They are a class apart. And there is reason for that. It is not that it's just love between the people of the two countries, but it is in our national interest to do that.
All right. Coming to you, Salman, the fact remains that there are a lot of challenges in the 21st century when it comes to this region. I'd like to start with Afghanistan. Now, both China and Pakistan have interests in Afghanistan, especially when it comes to security concerns. The Chinese side has time and again talked about ETIM, we have talked about TTP. Do you feel both countries can have a joint consensus as to how thwart elements that are trying to damage or could damage the security apparatus of our two countries during the visit of our premier to China? Could a new strategy be evolved?
Well, I think both the countries really agree on the security arrangement and the security posture regarding Afghanistan. We have witnessed in past that China has been supporting Pakistan's stance, not only in United Nations, but on other global forums as well, but as far as the issue of terrorism has been concerned, as far as the policy of Pakistan towards Afghanistan issue is concerned. And you just mentioned ETIM. So I think Pakistan was the one who really helped China to eliminate and eradicate ETIM in the first decade of 21st century when it was trying to hold its grounds in Afghanistan and the bordering areas. So that further solidified Pakistan-China's strategic alliance and this orientation of same page about these security issues, these non-traditional security issues. As far as Chinese concern, in the current scenario, are addressed by Pakistan in a way that you would have witnessed that there have been multiple visits from Chinese diplomats to Afghanistan, and Pakistan have facilitated those visits and those talks. So I think both the countries are will further solidify this relationship, and Pakistan can play a very significant role as far as the Afghan question is concerned, and the future of Afghanistan is concerned, and as far as the security for the Belt and Road Initiative and Chinese projects is concerned.
All right, my next questions are going to be more or less related to the economy. We'll begin with you, Mustafa. In the challenges that have erupted post the Russia-Ukraine war, supply chain disruptions, lack of food, and of course wheat, and then the oil prices that are rising high, can Pakistan, China, along with other countries, work together for some kind of a solution to this issue?
This is a very important question because it shows we have adapt at very short notice and at a very fast pace because world events are their game. Unpredictability, geopolitics have to be prepared. Case in point, Russia, Ukraine. As far as the supply chain and food security and energy security is concerned, I think that we have to understand and look at China prism of CPEC because just the Chinese market is mammoth. It's almost a quarter of the world. And their energy security that they have nurtured over time and cultivated as well as food security is something that Pakistan can learn a lesson from. When we talk about China-Pakistan economic corridor, we have done a lot of big ticket items, so to speak. But in terms of actually making supply chains and making, creating real commerce and materializing the potential that there is of consumption by the large disposable income of the Chinese piece, which has now a huge GDP per capita because of in the 30 years that has happened in China. We have created two supply chains which we certainly do want. And that will not only give us export-led growth, but it will also give us stable supply chains because they are one country that will not twist our arm and affect supply chains and our food security, etc., when it's a tough time. Other countries, as you know, have used economic as a weapon. Pakistan. And
I'm a little bit short of time, Mustafa, so I have to cut you short. Salman, I'd like a short response to the exact question that I asked Mustafa.
My friend Mustafa, definitely Pakistan and are all-weather friends, and the economic clout that we see, it was $48 billion, and now the magnitude is around $68 billion as far as the CPAC and Belt and Road Initiative is concerned. And then the credit facilities that we got when we were short of our foreign reserves. So that shows that the relationship has a great future. And to end my comment, I would just, for my Pakistani viewers, I'll just add that here in China, like, this is a very, very special emotional moment whenever we introduce ourselves as Pakistanis in the streets. They use this term for us. They show a lot of zeal and a lot of respect. And there is this term in Chinese language which is known as pathaya. Pathaya means Pakistan, China are iron brothers. So you can see that it is in the streets. It's in the mind and heart of common people. This very strong strategic alliance and this all-weather friendship.
All right. Thank you so very much to both of my guests, Mustafa Hyder Sayyid, the Executive Director, Pakistan-China Institute, and Dr. Salman Bhittani, Foreign Affairs expert, who have joined us to talk to us as preliminary to the visit of our Premier Shahbaz Shareef Saab to China on the invitation of his counterpart Li Keqiang. And of course, he's going to talk to many important leaders there, and at the same time, there might be important discussions on avenues to take this relationship further. Let's come to our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, that concerns floods in Pakistan, the aftermath, and now that winters are approaching, how to deal with it from a Pakistani perspective and also from a global perspective. We have had two pledges made by the United Nations, one of 160 million, the other of 815, but not much has really trickled down that side. Does the world realize the importance of the 33 million plus people who've been affected by the floods? More in the following report.
Increasing human and economic losses from climate-induced disasters have spurred a global debate about climate justice and reparations to developing South, whose carbon footprint is negligible. Pakistan has begun to develop a rich foundation for climate justice, and consistent adherence to this agenda can put Pakistan in the driving seat of delivering climate justice. Civil society members, academicians, journalists, district governments, and INGOs are incessantly calling upon the international community to write off Pakistan's debts, and all developed countries should come forward and join hands with Pakistan to tackle flood ravages. United Nations International Fund for Children in Emergency Regional Director for South Asia, George Laria revealed that flood devastation in Pakistan is massive by any scale, as the agency alone is seeking $173.5 million for providing humanitarian assistance. Speaking exclusively at PTV World, Regional Director UNICEF George Laria elucidated the urgency of funds required for reconstruction and rehabilitation efforts.
We would like to encourage emphasis on human capital as well as fiscal infrastructure. We've learned from elsewhere that attention usually goes immediately to hard infrastructure. And I fully understand that, because of the contribution of hard infrastructure to jobs, to growth and so on. Because Pakistan has a backlog of human capital development, this is a huge opportunity for the country to commit to reinvesting in health, education, nutrition.
Pakistan has appealed for climate justice and sought billions of dollars in funds following the floods that killed over 1,700 people, destroyed crops, and displaced millions of people across the country. A donors conference is also expected later this year in France to generate funds for the reconstruction and rehabilitation of the flood affectees.
Amir Zafar Durrani, President Reenergia, joins us online. Thank you very much, Amir, to have joined us. Amir, winter is upon us, almost upon us. In other areas such as Balochistan, the winter is there. Islamabad is also feeling a bit of the chill. But for all the 33 million plus people who are now affected by the floods, what is the way forward? The United Nations pledged twice the money, but the money has not entirely trickled in the amount that was pledged. Also, the world is helping. A lot of countries are sending aircrafts full of aid for Pakistan. But is it enough? What more needs to be done?
Well, thank you very much, Omar. I think the question we should be asking is, what should we be doing? And let me pause it. Another question in addition to your questions. What if this happens again next year? If not to the same extent, I mean, if let's say even 80%, 70% of this happens again, are we going to go begging every time to the world and look for aid? So the question, I think, is deeper than has the world come to our assistance or not? I think the real question we should be asking is, have we actually risen to the challenge of helping these people? So I think with the advent of winter, I think our focus, let me deal with the first part of the question, is our focus should be on the immediate, relief and recovery. So not the long term, because the long term has to be a little bit more sustainable. There are different solutions for different parts of the flood affected areas of Pakistan. So I think here it's about providing the right shelter. For example, in Balochistan, Sindh, however, does not go through that level of extreme temperatures. So I think we are primarily looking at northern Balochistan, middle Balochistan. We are also looking at some parts of KP which are still affected. Luckily, Punjab, by and large, has not been ravaged much by these floods. So our efforts, therefore, can stay very focused. Second part of this is actually trying to send out a message to the people, which has not been sent out, that they need to start helping themselves. I have toured some of these areas. I have had secondhand reports from a lot of friends, journalists like yourself, also some people who are out there helping in the field in Balochistan, people from the Balochistan Council of Peace and Prosperity, people in Sindh, including the Indus Trust. I think what I'm finding there is this sense of waiting for Godot. If you remember the play, it's basically the government has set a mindset which it needs to drastically reform, which is, folks, not much is going to happen until and unless you cooperate with the civil services agencies, the community organizations, the not-profit organizations, the armed forces that are actually working there, and actually getting yourself organized in a way. And, Omar, let me tell you the good news about all this, which is that Pakistan in these areas already has a lot of community organizations, village organizations, local support organizations, which are there at the Union Council level. Now, the question is, are these being mobilized and utilized? Because if our focus stays on debt and getting foreign assistance, believe me, we do not need foreign assistance. We need rupees to help these people, right? So second part of this is really mobilizing an internal fundraising campaign, which I think the government has given some effort, but I think we need to do a lot more of that.
All right. Food security, rather food insecurity, is also another huge issue for the people who have been affected by the flood. It was already there to some extent, but it has been exacerbated, as has been recently said by the regional director for South Asia of UNICEF. What should, as you yourself have said, it should be Pakistan's role to help those in need, in assistance with other countries, but it should be Pakistan that needs to take responsibility. How should Pakistan help those as far as food security is concerned? For all those women who are lacking in the proper nutrition, for all those children who are not getting the proper nutrition and are extremely malnourished in different areas of the country now because of the floods.
Okay, so let's break this answer down into three parts, right? I think, Omar, great question. So first, let's start with the basic premise that food insecurity is going to hit everyone in the world this year, not just Pakistan because of the floods. As you've seen already, what's happening down in Crimea, and the Russia backing out of the UN agreement simply because people blew up the bridge, as you know, short story. But everyone is going to be food insecure. It's going to be in Europe, it's going to be in Africa, it's going to be even in places like Indonesia. So I think looking outside of Pakistan for buying wheat, buying this, I think is not the right thing to do because we're already out of Forex, because why would we want to load our Forex? Now, I'll bring the third part first, the women. Actually, with the women, there are two segments here. The first segment is, as you know, about 20% of the women out there could be or are in some form of pregnancy, right? So they are either have already had children or are about to have children. So I think the nutritional needs for women needs to somehow find a targeting mechanism through these community organizations that have outreach at the grassroots level. And the good news is actually, 60-70% of the water has gone down, even in Sindh. It's now at a level where access is possible. And I think in Balochistan, we never had that issue. So I think immediate relief, we need to stop thinking about clothes and this and that. We need to start thinking of
Nutrition, food.
packages, food, no, especially high in folic acid foods. I think this is where we should really tax our multinational corporations and say, instead of paying just tax, this coming 2 years, the multinational corporations like Nestle, like Engro, like all these companies who, Lever Brothers, they should come out and actually donate massive fortified foods, whether it be Milo fortified with vitamin D, etc., right? So the packaging of food, especially for women, right, is going to be having, and for the pregnant one. Now, the third part of how will we actually cope with the wheat shortage, right? So essentially, one of the malices I see in the way we delivered aid is people are delivering sugar to these people. Now, I understand that glucose is very much required, but in all disasters, there are opportunities. Could this not be the opportunity to wean people off of the food, which is one of the most inefficient calorific food, which is wheat, right? We have tens of other kinds of grains, and we could make chapatis out of all these other grains and supply it in Pakistan. So I think the answer to the wheat crisis is to actually diversify food sources
and look at alternatives, basically. This is what you trying to say.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, also, now that the flood water is being drained in some of the areas, the flood still remains. The fact, what is looking ahead right at us is the rehabilitation, the restructuring of all of this, putting back the buildings in their place, the hospitals, the educational institutions in place, and also all the lands where the crops were being planted or had been planted. The livestock, unfortunately, people will have to buy new ones. But countries that have a modern way of dealing with their agricultural industry, is it time to go to them, to ask for them for modern technologies, so that we can be future proof as far as any calamity that could hit Pakistan in the coming years is concerned? You yourself have just talked about that a few minutes back, as to because we know what has happened to us this year. We don't know what could happen to us next year.
Okay, so I think there are, again, I mean, you ask very tough questions, Omar, but I guess that's why you're famous, right? So, okay, let me tackle the first part, which is the about the people coming back to lands, I mean, rebuilding, and you also mixed into that the livestock and the food security, right? So the first thing is, Build Back Better is something we've done in the 2010 floods in certain areas. We've done this in 2005, which was a limited area, but again, devastation was pretty large. In the case of the 2005 earthquake, I think today we have the capacity to actually tell the people that, build on your own. Remember the whole thing we took up where instead of the government rushing and contracting international funded temporary structures or even prefab houses. Now, people don't want to live in prefab houses. I mean, try living in one in the middle of Sindh or even in Hyderabad. It won't work, neither in Balochistan. So I think the key here is to be focused on owner-driven building back better, right? Where the government provides subsidies through, which is the government is much better than it was in 2005. Or in 2010 through the ASAs, through the Benazir Income Support Program. So I think that is a core part of how I think the rebuilding should take place. Now, within that question, the rebuilding should not have a single model or a single design, because you will find, as you know better, that what needs to be done in terms of rebuilding houses in southern Sindh is not the same thing what needs to be done in certain parts of KP or in certain parts of Balochistan on the other side of Khoi Suleiman. Now, a classic example is there were people who were living in riverbeds, or there were large mafias that had occupied hotels or riverbed. Now, good riddance. So they will relocate, and the government's job here is to regulate better. Government does not need to support their build back better. They themselves through regulation, because they're rich people. Now let's get to the poor people, right, or who are struggling. Now these people need to be provided some guidance. And I think in Balochistan it's going to be easier, because in Balochistan you have a larger number of pastoral nomadic people who kind of go through Balochistan and come down to Sindh and go back to Balochistan. They're not as tied to their land as people in Sindh are. Which brings me to your next question, which is about the next year's crops. Now, we already have enough interviews. I mean, my eyes have been Adil Mansoor at Business Recorder. The man's been traveling around, and we did some surveys, and he basically wrote back that people are coming back and want to come and resettle in the areas where the flood has receded. Now, this is absolutely not, natural. The reason it's absolutely natural is they want to take advantage of the fertile silt that's come on their land, and they want to have bumper crops. Now, I think that's a phenomenon we saw also in 2010. So I personally think that we need to find a way to separate cultivation from where people, from abodes, right, from houses where they live. How that is going to take place is going to be a slightly more tenuous process, and it cannot work with a single brushstroke of what Sindh government wants to do versus what the federal government says this is how it's going to happen. So I think these are the 2 points which come to my mind in response.
All of these points that we've just discussed, don't we need technical assistance from countries that have already the necessary data and the infrastructure built in to deal with climate change? Shouldn't we take, maybe countries that are in the European Union or other countries, even China, that has a more modernized agricultural industry? Shouldn't we take heed from them, ask their experts to come and train the farmers that are here in Pakistan, for example, on which crops to now sow and how to sow them, and for example, if God forbid any calamity happens next year or the year after that, how to deal with it beforehand?
Omar, sorry, can I be very honest with you on this one? I think
Please.
The problem we've had in all reconstructions is, and where we've always succeeded, is indigenous methods, indigenous people. Do we not know? The farmers already plant crops according to signals. You've seen how the potato crop and the maize crop has taken over cotton fields. Farmers are very smart, whether they be sharecroppers, whether they be owners, or whether they be tenant farmers. So the landlords know, the farmers know, they know what to plant, when to plant, how to plant, Barani versus irrigated land. I don't think, we need any kind of assistance in this immediate sense. What we do need very quickly is a long-term agricultural modernization strategy, right? Which is essentially going to ride on the coattails of what the farmers do now. But immediately, no country knows how to do this in Pakistan.
All right. So basically, we need to take care of our own people, and we need to be more looking inwards in order to help our country stabilize itself after this current calamity, that is the floods that have, of course, affected whole Pakistan. Amir, we are a bit short of time, so I'll have to thank you there. And then Amir Zafar Durrani, President Reenergia, joining us, talking to us about the floods and what needs to be done now that the winters are upon us. And of course, all the people that have been affected by the disease, the mothers, the children, how should we deal with them, in which manner, and also too for the reconstruction and the rehabilitation of all those people. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new stories and segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe and help those in need because of the floods. One way or the other, you know how to do that. Allah Hafiz.